Because I had a case whereby it's a big company, Muslim, and then the father passed away. So the other two shareholders is the two brothers lah. Of course, the plan, he had wasiat and all this, who's supposed to execute the shares of the father to distribute. So even with all the planning, end up one of the brothers who was appointed as the executor, because before that he was the minority shareholder. So I mean, in the sense, a bit logical lah. This guy have less shares than him. I appoint the one who has less shares to sort of distribute lah my shares to the whole family, right? While his argument was that when he's the executor, I have control with my father's shares, my shares. I become majority, and then he started to did something to the company lah, like move the customers away to another entity and things like that. So end up that issue become problem lah to the whole family. So the one that previously had the majority shareholding was the one who actually built the company. You can say the company is within 7 to 8 figures kind of revenue. So end up the company just become out of grid lah. I think it becomes that manner in a way where the dispute happens, no agreement with that, and even with lawyer also did not help lah, because both brothers went to the lawyer and the lawyer still say both of them are correct lah. I also don't know how we reached to that stage lah. I think there's some grey areas definitely that wasn't looked at, but no matter how you plan for it also, things will happen lah.
Isn't the issue is because the father who didn't appointed a third person? Because
No,
the father
usually executor you appoint a family member lah.
I mean, it's often a recommendation because it encourages the person to do the work because the family member is a beneficiary. It prompts them to get it settled so that they also get part of the share. But that's also because they are the most trustable. But there are companies who actually function as executors, which you can appoint. So I mean, I've had clients asking me to be executor, but we don't know whether we will live longer than them. So usually it's a bit risky.
But there's already a law firm that is executing the wasiat, what?
Executor is a person.
It's a person.
It's a person or a person from represented by representing a company.
entity.
So normally it doesn't come from the law firm lah.
Oh no, unless that law firm somehow
So generally you might appoint the family member lah.
Yes.
Like that's the most
common. So usually,
so unless you don't trust any of the family member, you say okay, you third party.
So some papers they give like the best friend to do the executor. I mean, as technically they can also assign a certain percentage of the assets. They can give maximum 33% to the executor also if they want to, as a gift, as a reward for helping out with the distribution. So an executor can overlap with a beneficiary lah. So of course, why I bring this up, because sometimes if we are not careful, beneficiaries cannot become witnesses, for example. These kind of things. You have to be mindful with who is your witness lah for your wasiat.
Have you decided on who's your executor will be?
Yeah, I've done. I've done with.
Nice.
But secret.
So early.
Secret executor.
Quite early,
Secret executor.
I think he said death is unpredictable.
Yeah, correct.
So that's why I asked him to do, but he haven't do.
Still miss.
Yeah, but that's why the thing is, I think it's rather to have a wasiat at every stage of your life, regardless of how messy, because it will only help make the mess clearer. Then every 5 years, if you want to, every 5 years revisit it until there's a need to change. Sometimes people think 60 baru buat, that kind of thing. I've had clients 70 plus want to do, but by then sadly a bit not in the sound mind to do. So even if let's say somehow somebody helps them with the wasiat, it can be contested. Saying for example, mom did the wasiat when she wasn't in the right mind. Then they will contest, for example. Even though the point of discussion is just 33%, but 33% could be in the millions. Or it could be so precious that they would rather keep it for the entire family. Why are we giving 33% to entity outside of the family? These kind of things. Yourself any scary stories about distribution that you have encountered or
Not really scary, but it's more silly.
silly?
Because my grandfather had 11 children.
Mm.
And he's a normal worker. It's not a civil servant. It's not someone who has a business and so on. So when he passed away, when I was before I became a teen, he only has some wealth which is not significant. But despite that, especially his sons would try to contest and scramble over for their share, and that actually delayed the whole process of faraid and so on. So what actually can be prevented is a will and a trust.
I think so. When there's no will or no wasiat, what happens is, what you call it? The letters of administration is required. So basically, like you mentioned, 11 beneficiaries, for example, they will argue amongst themselves who should be the best appointed administrator for the wealth in the event that the grandfather doesn't have a wasiat done. So if you have a wasiat, you are called executor. You don't have wasiat and you are appointed to distribute, you are the administrator. But it's not say I want to be the administrator. You putting up your hand to be administrator has to be agreed by the other possible candidates. No, it's not about who put. You can be the first to put.
Okay,
but if your sister doesn't want you to be the administrator, yeah. So yes.
But is it a majority vote or it must be a full agreement?
Barakah all lah.
Democracy.
Okay.
Yeah. Have to be like we all agree. Yeah, but I don't know how
somebody else
they.
need to
I mean
vote.
that's where court cases sometimes takes very long. Like the distribution of the wealth just remains unresolved lah. In that sense, like makan masa.
But the administrator, what do they do?
Same thing as the executor.
They just have to follow the
executor.
follow
Just
the
that,
faraid lah.
yeah, but the
They
claim.
cannot be the one decide.
No.
You get less, you get more.
Oh, you mean what they do? Technically, yes, faraid. They get the key to unfreeze all the bank accounts, for example.
Okay.
But the key difference is the executor was appointed by the deceased.
Yeah. So you save time on like people to dispute siapa yang nak.
Correct. You know that when you leave, you know who you trust to actually do the job for you. Whereas if let's say you leave behind with no wasiat, the issue is we don't know who's going to be in charge of it later. And we haven't gone into complex cases. Not part of today's discussion. If you have a minor lah. Yeah, because the consequences of, let's say,
If the person you choose then you pass away is still a minor.
no lah, cannot lah. That's why you cannot choose. No, that's why sometimes wills evolve, meaning or rather they get modified. Like let's say now I appoint someone who is an adult. When my child gets bigger, I'll pass the baton to him. I will revise the will lah. Then, for example, my son can be the executor. Yeah, of course, this kind of thing sometimes very sensitive. Let's say you have more than one child. Or 2 or 3.
What can go wrong when the administrator, if you have the wrong administrator?
What can go wrong? The person can take the money after assess everything and fly. It can go as strong as that.
What if the administrator pass on first, then shortly after the person who appointed this administrator pass on also? Or they pass on at the same time?
They pass to the next person. So this reminded me of a story situation whereby, let's say A passed away.
Okay.
Leaving, let's say a parent passed away.
Okay.
Leaving wealth for the 3 children. Somehow there's a delay lah. There's a delay in the administrator or that. And then while they are still settling this, one of them passed away.
One of the beneficiaries.
One of the beneficiaries passed away. Can you imagine? Some people argue saying that, oh, you passed away already.
Tu nak kena investigate tu.
No. That's besides the point lah. But the question is they will say, passed away already, so the wealth split between 2 of us lah.
It's not as easy as that. Right?
Because he passed when the first one passed away, he's alive. Yes. His share is part.
His share doesn't go to them, what? Even
Correct. Yes. So actually, it has to become. It's a sequential kind of thing. Like when this happened,
Yes.
actually, where did it go? Because we hear stories. Correct. So I mean, hearing this sometimes remind us the importance of having a will. Because if you don't have one, you cause this unnecessary delay. It just makes very complicated. Later on, kirakan harta tu tak not distributed.
But no one manage the administrator tak?
I mean the beneficiaries
They
will
just
pressure
have
lah. I mean
how
in
they
the
want
first place, if you already agree that this person is the most trusted administrator, is technically your.
But then does the administrator know how to split it following the faraid? Or
I mean that one they can work with the lawyer.
There's already the sort of instruction lah. Okay, I need to.
So if you have a will, you get a grant of probate from the law firm. No will, you go through the route of letters of administration. Usually the lawyer will advise what needs to be done, the steps and all that. Yeah, because acquiring grant of probate, some people think that the wasiat can go anywhere. to unlock bank accounts cannot. You with the wasiat, you need to get a grant of probate, which costs X amount. But the LOA, letters of administration, is more expensive usually. So that's another plus point of doing your wasiat lah.
Okay, now I want to ask particularly about wasiat, right? Does the person who approved the wasiat has the right to reject? For example, this person wants to give 100% of his wealth after his death to a charity instead of his children.
Instead of 33% lah.
Yes.
You're talking about Islamic will lah.
Right.
So when you say approve, I'm guessing you're talking about the court lah.
Yeah.
We call it invalid will lah. Okay, but it can be valid if the beneficiary say okay, we don't need that 67%, 67. What? Okay, so yeah, to your point, it's always a matter of, let's say, because sometimes we have this assumption, oh, you're right 100%, will tak boleh pakai. But what if back then it has already been agreed, everyone's okay. I mean, if everyone's wealthy, everyone has money, you want to give lah. We don't mind. So they just respect and give. They also won't immediately like, oh, this is invalid will. Let's throw it out the window.
I mean, as long as there's agreement, then there's no issues lah, kan? Because end of the day, the beneficiaries agree to it, even if it goes one round about where I get what I'm supposed to get, but I still follow your wishes, then there's no issues lah. Only when there's a dispute, then it becomes invalid, like you said.
Correct. Yeah.
That it becomes the problem is the agreement lah. Which I think now it sounds more like just having that rule or that faraid rule helps a lot lah, in the sense that there's no, I mean, as long as there's a dispute, they can't dispute the faraid lah, because this comes from the religion, right? But if like you don't have that, then it's very arbitrary one. You can fight, keep on fighting in court and all this. Supposed to get, because then already the default position, even if you agree to it at the start, then whatever things happen, then when the death happens, you can say, oh, I still demand faraid, then everything becomes invalid and just go by default. There's nothing to fight against that lah.
I have a scenario that I want to ask. For example, a husband passed on, then he doesn't manage to set a will, write a will for his beneficiaries.
Okay.
So he has siblings, he has parents, he has a wife and some kids, and he has a house that is also part of his estate. So the others, meaning besides his wife and children, wants to contest to claim their shares from the house, which is part of their share lah. How does this go about? I mean, who will eventually win? Is there Islamic or
case study? We need to draw at the side. Definitely. I mean, nanti kat sebelah ada macam we have a house. These are the beneficiaries. Yeah, so it's very common. So so certain things are bounded by what we call macam fatwa or how things are working in Singapore. So for example, for joint tenancy houses is very straightforward. Straightforward meaning if the husband passes away, house goes to the wife. No questions asked.
if let's say it's tenancy in common?
Tenancy in common depends on the percentage, of course. If let's say somehow the husband
Ni
has
tak tanya diri, tanya for self ke?
Keep for friendship. Yeah. So let's say the husband, let's say you, let's say the husband is 10% tenancy in common. So if let's say Nauzullah pass away, technically 90% still owned by the wife, right? So logically speaking, the wife will try her best to buy over that 10% lah, so that she still acquires. Then the 10% will be distributed to the faraid beneficiaries. So just last week I met this client mentioned that when last time the father passed away, what happened was, because there was no knowledge amongst the children, they were in the late teens. Apparently the auntie and uncles came into the picture to contest or rather request for the share, which we know that logically by faraid, when a father passes away,
Share of what?
Share of the father's wealth, which actually by right they have no share, unless a wasiat is written for them. Yeah, because he has children. So logically speaking, the father's brother and sisters will not be able to access at all.
Correct.
So no matter how much they contest,
better to get married lah.
Oh yeah.
Then you say you pass to the children, I don't pass to the.
No, but that's how it works lah. I mean, if you have a father, husband, son, it will block your other male beneficiaries.
If father, if mother,
no, they will eventually find a male beneficiary. Once your sibling is in the picture, getting the wealth fund, because let's say you don't have sons or whatsoever, then your uncles, aunties all.
So if you have children,
your son will block.
Doesn't matter lah, even
your son will block.
Father or mother.
Tak ada. So since I don't know, let's say this person doesn't have parents but has 5 sons, for example. Then no worries lah. Nobody will enter.
Kalau adopted?
Adopted tak
Kena block
to do wasiat. Yeah. So to answer your question, the siblings cannot enter the picture.